Hey, learning nerds, it's time to let you in on what exactly I've been working on. So, hey, it's story time. Let's go back to 2020, and that's when I created something called Instructional Design Institute. I noticed when I looked around that I saw a bunch of different types of resources for corporate instructional design, for freelance, but then higher education, not really as much. So, hearing this need actually from you, I realized I could do something about this. So, I created my own type of product. And I did what any good designer would do, where I put together a type of a prototype. I then put it in front of pilot program participants. I collected their feedback. I then applied that back into the designs. And then I did that again and again and again until eventually I had a final working product. And this became a kind of suite of courses all pertaining to instructional design. Now, originally, this was meant to serve aspiring instructional designers so that way they can learn more about instructional design without having to go back to school for a degree or go back to school for another kind of certificate. But as I continued this different type of training, I realized that there was actually something else that was going on. And what I first started to notice was that current instructional designers were actually enrolling. And I was like, well, why? Like, why are you here? How can I help you? It was made for aspiring instructional designers, not for current instructional designers. But what I heard from you was that you were joining because you were a team of one. Your supervisor wasn't an instructional designer, so you couldn't get coaching and feedback from them. So you try to be able to find your own support system, and that is how IDI was able to help you. Then I heard from other people talking about how they were the very first instructional designer that their organization ever hired, and they needed help. They needed help with being able to sell the value of instructional design, to talk more about why they were on projects, and of course, to be able to work with subject matter experts and about all these different types of things. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that does make sense. Like, okay, we can work with this. So, hence, continuing on with everything. Now, that was almost 3 years ago, and now we're in 2020. And this is when, and hence why I'm making this video to tell you more about now what I'm actually up to. I realized from going back through and looking at everything that I needed to absolutely revise the original Instructional Design Institute, and for a number of very good reasons. The first was that it was years ago. I look different. I'm in a different background. I sound different. It is definitely, I actually showed this to one of my students and I was just like, oh yeah, look at this video. And she started to laugh because I don't sound the same. I mean, even if you watch my original videos going back in time, I'm not as confident. I'm definitely not as loud, I'm not as eccentric. I have certainly found my own voice inside of this world, and now I'm pretty confident in what it is that I do. So hence, all the videos needed to be redone. Not to mention, too, this whole pandemic thing, well, it definitely did change many different types of things out there. And the biggest thing was that there was a number of different types of articles and resources within Instructional Design Institute. And there has been so much more literature that has been published since everything really did happen. There's been a lot talking more about with online learning, with remote working, with emergency learning, and of course, all different forms of learning strategies and everything else as far as we're talking about the effectiveness of a number of things. And there's just been, if you Google it, there's a number of different types of information that have come about. So obviously, I have to go back and make those more up to date with all the different types of articles and resources that I provided. And also, not to mention, too, I want to go back and update everything. The activities, the assessment, I just want to make them better because now in 2023, I am a better instructional designer. Now, of course, that wasn't all, is that the other thing too, which is a problem, a good problem, but still a problem, is that I have become a much better teacher. I've now done way more workshops than I can possibly count. I've been teaching graduate students now for years straight. So hence, I've gotten a lot better about managing courses and running them and providing feedback and doing all of these different types of things. And those components were not in the original Instructional Design Institute. So once again, I wanted to go back and just revise everything. So what does this look like? Well, in theory, I would put together more information talking about andragogy, talking about backward design, learning strategies, universal design for learning, and evaluating the learning experiences, evaluating the actual effectiveness of them all. I want to be able to actually provide with you more hands-on types of experiences because I heard from a ton of you about how you just keep on learning about theories, but there's no practical application of a skill. There's nothing as far as for you actually designing and building courses, even like ranging from the course mapping activities, project scoping, and then finally putting everything together. Yeah, you need that. So I'm going to incorporate that as well. Like I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to revise everything. I'm going to reshoot all of the videos, do all the different forms of finding more up-to-date things for the readings, for the podcast. I'm going to go back through everything as far as for the discussions, the reflections, the practice questions, the scenario-based assignments, the case studies, and the projects. I'm going to redo all of them to make them better. Now, on top of that, during this time frame too, I wrote a book that wasn't there before. So obviously, if you're looking for a guidebook about how to get into instructional design and how to take your instructional design skills to that next level, it's literally why I wrote the book. So I will be giving you a free copy of the ebook as well. The other thing too is that this should be a cohort. It should be a community. The support system and structure that comes from a cohort, I have now seen it time and time again. It is so powerful to be able to do this and to have fellow peers you can connect with. So obviously that's going to be inside of there. And speaking of peers too, knowing about the value as far as for getting that feedback from your fellow peers, you want to be able to relate with them to see where they are and what they think about your own different types of assignments. And now obviously, as your instructor, I would give you feedback as well too on all the major assignments to make sure that you know that you're on track. So I could do that. I could put that all together. I could do that. I should do that. And I did. Which is why, hence making this video, but also why I'm fired up to introduce to you that Instructional Design Institute. It's been reborn, and it is going to be launching again on May 1st. It is going to have everything that I just talked about. You're going to have 7 weeks of nerding out with me and your fellow cohort members and going through everything together on this kind of instructional design journey. Now, if you go down below inside of this video, you're actually going to see an application form to fill this out to get into the Institute. And I did this for a good reason, because as your instructor, I want to learn more about you, your goals, your expectations, and how I can help you. Of course, I'm not going to just neglect and forget about your past experiences. You are an adult. It's one of the main principles of andragogy is incorporating your thoughts, your feelings, your past experiences into the curriculum, into the design, and then actually being able to go and to talk more about these things and to build upon them, which I very well can do inside of the workshops that I'm going to be doing once a week. And of course, it's going to be recorded. As always, before you ask me, my life's recorded. Everything's recorded. So it's going to be inside of there as well too. So go down below, apply today. I cannot wait to be able to work with you to share more about instructional design and of course, to help you on your own instructional design journey. Hey folks, I'll see you in class.